all your sports updates. We let you know what's happening to your greatest stars, both local and international.
I am Samantha Ndiamohachi.
Billy Gang Bruno.
Matovu Ali.
The Heads. We back from that short break, and today we are going to look at a very contentious issue in society, and with me is our guest for the day,
Alexander Chokulika.
Yes, Alexander, who has become a regular. I don't know why I would still be calling you a guest, but sure, you're more of a regular.
Thank you.
Yes, Alexander is the CEO of Youth Aid Africa and a very prominent youth leader in the country. We are going to look at the land question, Alex.
Sure. And
Uganda itself is a country that has been in the whole. We have had a problem of the land. The issue of land has come up yet time and again. And yesterday, there was a problem of donors wanting prosecution over OPM staff land scheme, which apparently was some fraudulent transactions happened in the Prime Minister's office. But this is not the first time that this is happening. We have had a number of issues around the land and land in Uganda. Well, Mr. Alex, what would you? Why is land coming up time and again, and why has Uganda failed to resolve the land question?
Sure. Thank you so much, Billy. Number one, you realize that land is such a very, very important resource, not only in Uganda, but in almost all parts of the world. And whenever someone gets a chance to get a piece or a portion of land to their ownership and whatever, and they will always take advantage of that. Why it has always come, we may not treat land processes being fraudulent as an isolated case, but you realize that there are very many people who get power and they want to, by all means, access land. You have seen many government officials, when they get chance, they run to acquire land. Those who fail to get the money, they will get any other possible way of getting land. So the opium scandal and all those others indeed.
We currently have the Land Commission.
Exactly. And you be sure that there are very many land processes that have gone wrong, not because they're supposed to, but because of the importance of land. People always want to find a way of owning
the sentimental value of land.
Exactly. Because you realize that Uganda, I think 80% of Ugandans are employed in the agriculture sector. You have seen people who have made huge chunks of money from agriculture, usage of land and stuff like that. You know for sure that all of us where we sleep, the houses are built on land. So it gives you a feel of how significant land is in our daily operations, in our daily lives and stuff like that. So you be sure that people always want to get land, irrespective of whether they have money or whether they have the capacity. And when they get a chance to steal, they'll definitely steal, just like they steal money and any other thing.
Well, but it's important to note that, well, there has been a shift, if you would agree with me. There has been a shift in, initially land was wanted for agricultural purpose. But today the land is needed for more commercial, although yes, agriculture in some sense would be commercial. But the acquisition of land has importantly and has moved towards other economic activities like mining and the likes, and construction, especially the real estate business.
Sure.
That has, I think, brought about a lot of the land grievances we're having today in the country.
That is true, because like I said, you see, land is a resource that appreciates every day. You be sure, Billy, that a piece of land that you buy 10 millions today, just give it 2-3 months, it will no longer be 10 millions. Now, when you realize that some certain things like mineral resources have been discovered in some parts of the land of the country, you be sure that such land is no longer just the top layer that you see for agriculture and stuff like that. There are other wealth tools underneath, and that is why people now want land like nothing. We have had people buying square miles of land. In most cases, sometimes we find that such people are looking at a possibility of discovering some mineral resources down there.
And well, there have been schemes apparently,
exactly,
where people survey land and they find out that there are minerals in the land, and then they go purchase the land, hoping compensation from the government.
Exactly. And you see, if for instance someone realizes that this piece of land has mineral resources underneath, and they realize that they don't have the money to purchase it, but this person has maybe access to tools of mass destruction, and they can threaten around and acquire the land. That's why you realize that very many cases are coming up. But between me and you agree that, for instance, the Justice Bamugerere Commission on land, the land probe that has been doing, I think, tremendous work, because I've tried to unearth very many big wigs that had either acquired land fraudulently or acquired land through processes that really did not follow the law. You realize that a lot of threat has been issued, and the people are now starting to think twice before they can think of, acquiring land that way. And I think that will make a great deal.
Well, the whole issue of the commission, the Bamugerere Commission, comes in, has had its bumps where the court, the judiciary itself has said they do not have, the commission on land does not have an operating mandate. That's why we had the High Court last week trimming the powers of the commission. Mm-hmm. So the commission itself is not apparently, it has no provision in which it works in the constitution. It is practically an appeasement policy. Some would say it's an appeasement policy for Ugandans.
You see, the politics of the land has practically influenced every processes, every department of government, and every individual, including the judicial officers themselves. I could agree that the Bamugerere Land Probe Committee does not have an operating mandate, but again, it has the blessing of the appointing authority. So whether they have an operating mandate is another thing that we would think about. But whether what they are doing is something that benefits Ugandans, those who have had their land grabbed, taken unfairly, if they can get justice, issues of whether it has an operating mandate and all of that, we shall always look at that later. But again, like you say, I always want people to appreciate that our politics and our governance sometimes does not have to go the way we expect them. And quite often you've seen people being appointed to do this and the other simply because the head of state, I think, believes in them and thinks that they can do something much better. When you are a manager in a company and then you realize that your boss asks your junior to start doing part of your work, then you be sure that your boss no longer believes in you. So it is only in order for you to humble yourself and let the young person take charge. And when you realize that you wake up from slumber, you can always do what you're supposed to do.
Well, let's go for a short commercial break. But when we come back, we shall look at what could be some of the solutions to the land question in Uganda and what are the possible reminiscences for the land problem in the country.
Welcome to the Heads Show.
We gather, produce, and deliver news and other events happening in your area.
We engage experts, even you, the public, on topical issues such as business, health, family, and money, sex, and God.
All these issues inspire you, way or another, to make your daily decisions.
With the motivation of all your sports updates, we let you know what's happening to your greatest stars, both local and international.
I am Samantha Ndiamohachi.
Billy Gang Bruno.
Matovu Ali.
The Heads. We inspire you
And educate you.
from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. every weekday on Google Day Television.
Run the race, run the race. Makerville Gospel Church invites you to the mega event of the year, the 31st Overnight 2018.
The Lord is going to be present to heal and deliver the sick.
I promise you, it will be a night to remember.
Come join us and enjoy incredible worship, great intercession, holy communion, testimonies of miracles and wonders, fantastic music from gospel artists like Brian Luriga, Elizabeth Sesanga, Salem Praise, Youth Band, the Mass Choir, and so many more. Run the race with patience. Hebrews 12:1.
Welcome to the Heads Show.
We gather, produce, and deliver news and other events happening in your area.
We engage experts, even you, the public, on topical issues such as business, health, family, and money, sex, and God.
All these issues inspire you, way or another, to make your daily decisions.
With the motivation of all your sports updates, we let you know what's happening to your greatest stars, both local and international.
I am Samantha Ndiamohachi.
Billy Gang Bruno.
Matovu Ali.
The Heads. We inspire you
And educate you.
Short commercial break. Alex, someone would ask, what do you think is the biggest problem, and what do you think is leading to the whole land fraction in Uganda and the entire problem? What do you think is the basis?
I think the biggest problem facing Uganda is totally a governance problem, and that is where the land problems are stemming, because even the law that is in place, most people do not know about it, and that is why they find shortcuts towards acquiring land and all that. The solution, I think, would be that, number one...
Well, would you say that the land question, that means Uganda has had a governance problem before even it became Uganda, when it was still under the British? Because the land question has always been there, even before the British came to Uganda. There was a Bunyoro Buganda issue of land, and then when the British came, Milo and Crown land. So would you say that we've had a governance crisis forever?
I think the problem then was to do with harmonizing the institutional interests of the states that existed before Uganda. Because you know that coming back to the African setting, for instance, where I come from, land is something that shows that one is wealthy. So you be sure, that's why you talk about, you don't know how much land the Kabaka of Uganda owns. And partly that is what gives him the power, because he practically owns all the land in Uganda, and all the others are just squatters, including ourselves. So going back to the problems before Uganda, I think that was to do with the institutional kingdom or chiefdom, or sovereignty and stuff like that. But today the problem is a governance problem, because then there should be a clear law that governs land acquisition, land usage, and land management. In other countries that have actually developed from grass, and they're now up there, and we look up to them, talk about Singapore and a few others, government actually owns the land. And because of that, then governing the land is easier. But here in Uganda, you find that even in the heart of the city, someone owns the land, and because of that, they use it the way they want, and you as government may not regulate a lot, because this guy practically owns the land. And I will tell you, go to Kampala, just walk on Kampala streets and see how many buildings are actually constructed in road reserves.
Well, and there are other people claiming roads.
Exactly, and how, so it all comes back to the land question. God forbid the land amendment bill that was tabled in Parliament recently. It so happens that we still get merged into the mafia politics and then the arguments that ensue. But I think if it had been well thought, it's something that we as citizens should, take on and ensure that we have a law in place that, for instance, does not frustrate government when government wants to develop this and the other. The other question that comes is that when we talk about government, are we actually talking about government or are we talking about individuals? And I think that's why Ugandans get a problem when they realize that, for instance, government would want to take charge of all the land. But in essence, and in the spirit of development, it would be in order that government has charge over the land and they can decide when, for instance, there is supposed to be a university or a school or any development project that can take place.
Well, would it not look like communism in some aspect? Because we have a country with a lot of impunity. If the government were to own the land, we know the mafia. You talked about the mafia politics.
Exactly.
Yes. Don't you think there will be a lot of injustices compared to?
That's what I'm saying. If things were to be clear and straight, I wouldn't care whether it is communism or socialism or whatever, for as long as it's something that is going to lead the country to development. My biggest problem, of course, is those mafias.
So you believe that if the government owned the land, that would lead to development?
Yeah, because in some instances we have seen that happen. But like I said, that is subject to, if we can weed out the kawugumi, the weevils, and be sure that we have clean leaders who can think and strategize for the country, that would be good. But going back, as citizens, definitely, we still have a role to play, because we can find a way of utilizing the land that we have to make sure that it actually produces. I've seen people who don't have to own square miles of land to do farming. You have seen people who own a simple 50 by 100 piece of land, and they have around 5, cows, and then they do very serious farming and they earn a lot of money. But I think the greed that comes with owning a lot of land is part of what is causing us problems. And of course, these people know how to bend the law and play around with the existing law to actually take this land.
Well, and you still with the land question now. But most of Uganda's land is not in use, active use.
That is true.
Yes, because although majority of Ugandans live in rural areas, but when you compare the square kilometer, the country, the land mass of the country, you come to a realization that most of Uganda's land is not being used, and yet we are having these conflicts over land and over, let's say, a small portion of land. What do you think the solutions would be? There would be some school of thought which would say that we need to expand.
Sure.
We need to move people to other parts of the country, because it looks like most of the concentration of people is around a particular part of the country.
I will tell you, Billy, that if we were to utilize the land that we have and do better agriculture for really commercial purposes, if we were to have the very many young people who are not employed
in the formal sector,
exactly, to interest them into the informal sector, probably get into agriculture, get back to their villages and do the farming, it will take us to change the mindset, so that we know that we have land, number one, as one of the biggest resources that we have, and we should take charge of it and utilize it and get the best out of it.
So
it will also take, for instance, government and the citizens to ensure that some of these places have the social amenities that would interest a graduate like me to actually go back to Chigarama and do farming. Is there a hospital? Is there a school? These are the things that we look for when we come to Kampala and all of that. So I think it will take, number one, the citizens to change the mindset, government to have deliberate move to put these amenities in place so that people can be attracted to go back and utilize the land. Number three, the law must be made clear and should be purposely to enable Ugandans to utilize the land. Once these are done, you'll be sure that some of these things that we have, land grabbing and stuff like that, we may not know. But again, you see, as I conclude, Billy, when you look at, for instance, the recent eviction in Lusanda, then you ask, then you understand why, for instance, President Museveni would appoint Bamagemereide to to head a land probe commission, you know, other than using it, because that eviction was done with police and there was a court order. So you realize that even the judicial system itself is faulty. So basically, that's why I call it a governance problem, because there are a lot of things that are not supposed to be happening, and they're happening. And because of that, that's where we are.
Well, my final question to you as we are concluding is, the President's initiative of giving Vibanja holders titles and other initiatives, do you think this is a collective effort, and will it yield, do you think this collective effort will yield much in the future for the country?
I can state without fear of contradiction that is a political move. And I can tell you that the President himself knows that this is something that he has to do now, ahead of 2021. And basically that's what he's looking at. Otherwise, I do not think that he's really, you know, saying that, hey, this land belongs to you, please hold it and all that. Because, I mean, you have seen very many of these, and he knows these things. So in my opinion, I think it is a political move that is meant to win the masses towards, you know, election and all that. Yeah.
Well, that was the topical discussion with Alex Chokwijuka. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you so much.
Stay tuned to Google Day Television. When we come back, we shall have how it's made, and after that, it will be the Standard Magazine with Samantha Ndiamuhachi. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Heads Show.
We gather, produce, and deliver news and other events happening in your area.
We engage experts, even you, the public, on topical issues such as business, health, family, and money, sex, and God.
All these issues inspire you, way or another, to make your daily decisions.
With the motivation of all your sports updates, we let you know what's happening to your greatest stars, both local and international.
I am Samantha Ndiamuhachi.
Billy Gang Bruno.
Matovu Ali.